1918. America has emerged victorious and the Great War is over. American GIs return home from the battlefield, eager to resume their lives as citizens. But for millions of African Americans, a totally new battle, the battle for racial equality, is only just beginning. Historians call the period from 1916 to 1940 the First Great Migration, whereby across the South, millions of African Americans moved from mostly rural areas in the South to northern industrial cities. The primary factors for migration among Southern African Americans were segregation, an increase in the spread of racist ideology, widespread lynching, and lack of social and economic opportunities in the South. There were also factors that pulled migrants to the North, such as labor shortages in northern factories brought about by World War I, resulting in thousands of jobs in steel mills, railroads, meatpacking plants, and the automobile industry. The pool of jobs in the North was strengthened by the efforts of labor agents, sent by northern businessmen to recruit southern workers. Northern companies offered special incentives to encourage black workers to relocate, including free transportation and low-cost housing. Between 1910 and 1930, the African American population increased by about 40% in northern states as a result of the migration, mostly in major cities. The cities of Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, Baltimore, and New York City had some of the biggest increases in the early part of the 20th century. Tens of thousands of blacks were recruited for industrial jobs, such as positions related to the expansion of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Because of the changes concentrated in these cities, which also had attracted millions of new or recent European immigrants, tensions arose as the people competed for jobs and scarce housing. Tensions were often most severe between ethnic Irish defending their recently gained positions and territory and recent immigrants and blacks. In the late summer and autumn of 1919, racial tensions became violent and came to be known as the Red Summer. This period of time was defined by violence and prolonged rioting between blacks and whites in major United States cities. The reasons for this violence vary. Cities that were affected by the violence including Washington, D.C., Chicago, Omaha, Knoxville, and Elaine, Arkansas. By the time the rioting and violence had subsided in Chicago, 38 people had lost their lives, with more than 500 injured. Additionally, $250,000 worth of property damage was destroyed, and over 1,000 persons were left homeless. In other cities across the nation, many more had been affected by the violence of the Red Summer. The Red Summer enlightened many to the growing racial tensions in America. The violence in these major cities prefaced the soon-to-follow Harlem Renaissance. After moving from the racist pressures of the South to the northern states, African Americans were inspired to different kinds of creativity. In her book, The Warmth of Other Suns, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Elizabeth Wilkerson discusses the migration of 6 million black Southerners moving out of the terror of Jim Crow to uncertain existence in the North and Midwest. The struggle of African American migrants to adapt northern cities was the subject of Jacob Lawrence's Migration series of paintings, created when he was a young man in New York, exhibited in 1941 at the Museum of Modern Art. Lawrence's series attracted wide attention. He was quickly perceived as one of the most important African American artists of the time. The Great Migration had effects on music as well as other cultural subjects. Many blues singers migrated from the Mississippi Delta to Chicago to escape racial discrimination. Muddy Waters, Chester Burnett, and Buddy Guy are among the most well-known blues artists who migrated to Chicago. Other northeastern and midwestern industrial cities, such as Philadelphia, New York City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Omaha, also had dramatic increases in their African American populations. By the 1920s, New York's Harlem had become a center of black cultural life, influenced by the American migrants as well as new immigrants from the Caribbean era. A second wave of immigrants, known as the Second Great Migration, would soon follow in the footsteps of those who came before. They would find and create rich communities that would forever change their lives and the lives of others, and in doing so, become truly great migrants.